Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here today to speak to you about a subject that many pursue, few master, and even fewer sustain: profitable trading. Let me begin by saying this plainly. You cannot be a profitable trader if you don't learn how to protect your capital. That is not just an opinion. That is a foundational truth, like gravity in the world of markets. And yet, how many of us trade as though we are invincible, as though the rules somehow won't apply to us, as though we can afford to keep rolling the dice, hoping this time will be different? No. The moment you step into the market thinking you're in control while refusing to control your risk is the very moment you're already defeated. You see, this first rule, it isn't about complexity. It isn't about having a dozen monitors or running the latest AI-powered backtest. It's about something far more basic: self-control, discipline, the willingness to say this far and no further. That is what a stop-loss is. It's not just a trading tool. It's a line in the sand, a boundary that you draw, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. A stop-loss is the most honest thing a trader can use because it says, I might be wrong. And let's be clear, you will be wrong. I will be wrong. Every trader, no matter how skilled, will be wrong at times. What separates the professional from the gambler is not who wins more, it's who loses better. And that's a hard truth for a generation raised on instant gratification and limitless upside. Everyone wants the thrill of a home run, but no one wants to hear about the cost of striking out. They don't want to hear that managing risk is more important than chasing reward. But the reality is the market doesn't reward pride. The market punishes arrogance. And so we place a stop loss, not because we fear the market, but because we respect it. We recognize its power. We acknowledge that it can move faster than us, that it doesn't care about our opinions, our hopes, or our feelings. It moves, it turns, it breaks, and if we're not careful, it can wipe out months, even years of progress in a single day. I've known traders, good traders, who refused to use stop losses. And you know what happened? They were right 9 times in a row. 9 winners, strong performance, confidence through the roof. And then came the 10th trade, the one they thought couldn't fail, the one they told themselves they'd watch closely, the one they'd manually close if needed, and it went against them. Not slowly, not with warning, but sharply, mercilessly. And they froze, they waited, they told themselves, it'll come back, but it did. And before they knew it, half their account was gone, sometimes more. That's not trading, that's denial, that's self-destruction wrapped in false hope. A stop-loss is your act of humility. It is your declaration that you are not omniscient, that even your best analysis can fail, that this is a game of probability, not prophecy. And if you don't use one, if you don't define the maximum you're willing to lose before you enter the trade, you're not managing risk, you're gambling with your future. Let me speak plainly. Some of you are trying to build a life, trying to build freedom, trying to escape a 9-to-5 by trading, and yet you treat your trades with less planning than someone planning a weekend trip. You'll spend more time choosing a vacation spot than setting your stop loss. That's not a strategy, that's carelessness. The market is not a forgiving place. It doesn't hand out second chances just because you're passionate, or because you read 5 books, or because your last trade worked out. If you do not protect your capital, you will lose it. Not maybe, not eventually. You will. Now you may be thinking, but what if I get stopped out too early? That's a fair concern, but it's not a reason to abandon the practice. It's a reason to get better at placing your stop, not a reason to trade without one. You don't fix a flat tire by taking the wheels off the car. You learn where your risk makes sense. You study volatility. You measure structure. You adapt, but you do not remove the only shield you have against total loss. You know there's something else a stop loss does. It brings peace. When you trade with a clear exit, you sleep better. You're not glued to the screen, hoping and praying. You're calm, you're focused, because you've already counted the cost. You know exactly what's at stake, and if that stop hits, you take it, you learn, you reset. You don't spiral, you survive. And in trading, survival is everything. Do you understand what I'm saying? The traders who last, the ones who are profitable month after month, year after year, they aren't the ones with the most aggressive trades. They're the ones who guard their capital like it's sacred, because their capital is your seed. If you waste it, you have nothing left to grow. So when I say 90% of profitable traders use stop losses, I don't just mean they click a button. I mean they've built a mindset that refuses to risk ruin. They understand that no single trade is worth their whole account. They've embraced the slow, disciplined, sometimes frustrating road of sustainable success. And if you want to be in that 10%, you must do the same. Not when you feel like it, not just on big trades, not when it's convenient, every single time. Because in the end, those who lose small can stay in the game long enough to win big. That's the truth. Take it seriously, take it personally, or take your money and give it to someone who does. The truth is, most traders fail, not because they lack intelligence or tools, but because they lack focus. They're scattered, they're restless. They move from strategy to strategy, like children chasing butterflies, never staying still long enough to learn, to grow, or to improve. They think the answer is out there, the next course, the next indicator, but the reality is this: the answer is inside you, waiting for you to stop running. Let me ask you something. What would happen if a doctor tried to master every specialty at once? Cardiology, neurology, pediatrics, surgery, all at the same time. Would you trust that doctor with your life? Of course not. But in trading, many think they can do just that. They believe they can trade stocks, forex, crypto, options, use 5 different time frames, 10 different strategies, and somehow expect consistent results. That's not mastery. That's no. Those who succeed are students of one method. They don't just use it, they study it, refine it, live it. They know it inside out. They've taken the time to understand how it behaves in different market conditions. They know when it works best and when it doesn't. They're not bored with that repetition. They're sharpened by it. I've seen so many people start off excited. They get a taste of trading and suddenly they want to conquer the entire market in 6 months. They think they'll become full-time traders over. But when their first strategy doesn't give them immediate results, they abandon it. They label it broken, outdated, not for me. So they move on to the next shiny thing, and then the next, and then the next. Months go by, years even, and they're no closer to profitability. Why? Because they never stayed with one strategy long enough to understand its strengths, weaknesses, and how to truly make it their own. That's not how you grow. That's not how you build skill. If you want to become great at anything, trading, music, art, ministry, it demands repetition. It demands that you do the same thing 1,000 times with humility and attention until it becomes part of you, until you can feel it, until it's no longer guesswork, but conviction. Let me be clear here. You don't need 10 good strategies. You just need one that fits your personality, one that fits your schedule, one that makes sense to you. And once you find it, you cling to it, not blindly, but faithfully. You don't look for the next big thing every time you have a losing week. You don't throw it away because the market shifted. You study, you adjust, because that's what maturity looks like. The world is filled with people who quit too soon, but profitable traders are not easily moved. They don't panic at the first sign of difficulty. They don't abandon their method because of one drawdown or because another trader made more using something else. They know what they've committed to, and they understand that consistency comes from repetition with purpose. And here's another hard truth. If you can't follow one strategy with discipline, you won't be able to follow 10. Jumping from one to another isn't a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of instability. It's saying, I don't trust myself. I don't trust the process. I want quick results more than I want real growth. That's not trading. That's chasing. But those who focus, they move differently. You can sense it. They're not desperate. They're not confused. They're grounded. They show up each day with clarity because they know what they're looking for. Their setups are familiar, their decisions are consistent, and their confidence doesn't come from recent wins. It comes from years of faithful study. Let me say something to those of you who are still searching for the perfect strategy. It doesn't exist. No strategy wins all the time. No setup will make you rich without losses. But there are strategies that can work if you're willing to work on them. And that's the part most don't want to hear. They want results without the repetition, profits without patience, mastery without commitment. We live in a world that celebrates multitasking, that praises being busy, that says you're only valuable if you're juggling 10 things at once. But in trading, multitasking kills focus, and lack of focus kills your account. This isn't about being everywhere. It's about being exactly where you need to be, fully present, fully disciplined. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to tell you the truth. And the truth is, if you would just quiet the noise, if you would stop switching, if you would stop comparing yourself to every other trader on the internet and just focus on learning one system well, you'd be shocked at how far you can go. You don't have to trade every day. You don't have to catch every move, but you do have to be committed. You do have to choose your path and walk it, even when it's slow, even when it's hard, even when others seem to be doing better. And that kind of discipline, it changes more than your trading. It starts to shape your thinking. It makes you more intentional, more patient, more clear, and that is where real growth begins. So if you've been jumping around, if you've been treating this journey like a buffet line, picking a little here, a little there, it's time to stop. It's time to choose to go deep instead of wide, because the traders who win, they aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who've learned to do the most with what they know. You cannot separate your trading from your discipline. You cannot separate your results from your ability to stick to the plan. It doesn't matter how smart you are or how much you understand the market. If you allow fear or greed to pull you off course, you will sabotage yourself. That's not theory. That's experience. That's life. I've seen it too many times. Traders who know exactly what to do, but when it's time to act, they freeze, or worse, they do the opposite. They plan to take profit at a certain level, but when the price gets close, they start getting greedy. They say maybe just a little more. And then the market turns and they're stuck, watching what could have been a winner become a loser, or they set a stop loss. But when price moves against them, they move the stop. I'll just give it some more room. They say it's just a pullback, but it's not a pullback. It's a full reversal. And by the time they accept it, the damage is done. Let me say this as clearly as I can. If you can't follow your plan doesn't matter. Your trading edge means nothing if your emotions are stronger than your discipline. This is where most people miss the point. They think trading is about predicting the market. It's not. It's about managing yourself. The real battle isn't on the chart. It's in your heart. It's in your mind. It's in those moments when you have to choose between doing what you feel and doing what you said you would do. Trading without a plan is foolish, but trading with a plan and not following it, that's even more dangerous. It gives you a false sense of structure. You think you're doing it right, but your actions betray your intentions. You've convinced yourself that you're being strategic when in reality you're reacting, and reaction is the enemy of consistency. That's why the best traders don't just have a plan, they have the discipline to submit to it. They make decisions before the trade starts. They don't rely on in-the-moment judgment calls. They don't improvise under pressure. They understand that once the market is moving, it's too late to think clearly. The adrenaline kicks in, the fear takes over, and if you don't have your rules already in place, your emotions will write their own. That's what happens when you trade on emotion. You start chasing candles. You start seeing things that aren't really there. You interpret every move as a signal. You second guess yourself. You exit too early or hold too long. You lose the clarity that your plan gave you because your feelings became louder than your logic. But those who are profitable, they don't do that. They make their decisions in peace so they can execute in pressure. They set their entries, their stops, their targets before they enter. They know exactly what they're risking and what they expect to gain. And when the trade is live, they don't touch it. They don't interfere. They don't let panic talk them out of their position or pride hold them in too long. They let the plan do its job. It's not easy. I'm not saying it is. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do in trading, to trust your plan when everything inside you is screaming to interfere. But that's where growth happens. That's where the line is drawn between the emotional trader and the professional. The emotional trader reacts, the professional executes. And I'll tell you something else. Sometimes your plan will fail. You'll follow it exactly, and it won't work. You'll take a clean setup, textbook entry, perfect risk management, and you'll lose. And that's okay. That's part of the game. The goal isn't to win, every trade. The goal is to follow your process, because if your process is sound, the profits will follow. You see, trading is not about being right, it's about being consistent. You don't build a business on random wins, you build it on a repeatable edge that you can trust, even when it doesn't work out every time, and you can only do that if you stick to the plan. Some of you keep blowing accounts, not because your strategy is wrong, but because you won't stop interfering. You don't trust the plan you made. You override it every time it makes you uncomfortable. But listen to me, comfort is not the measure of correct. Often doing the right thing in trading feels uncomfortable. Letting a loss hit your stop hurts. Taking partial profit when price is still moving up feels premature. But those are the decisions that protect your account. Those are the decisions that keep you in the game. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to feel good or do you want to be profitable? Because those aren't always the same. The path to real consistency doesn't feel good in the moment. It feels rigid. It feels boring. It feels like restraint. But that restraint is what builds endurance, and endurance is what produces results. You have to become the kind of person who can say, this is my plan, and even if I don't like it right now, I'm going to follow it. You have to become the kind of trader who doesn't chase every move, who doesn't get shaken by volatility, who doesn't let FOMO drag them into bad positions. You have to build that strength in quiet places, in small trades, in moments no one sees, because those are the moments that shape who you become when the stakes are higher. And let me tell you something, if you can win this battle with yourself, if you can bring your emotions under discipline and trade your plan, no matter what, there is no limit to what you can accomplish in this market. Not because the market will become easier, but because you will become stronger. So stop letting your feelings lead your trading. Stop adjusting your plan after the trade is on. Stop listening to your fear and your greed and start listening to your process. Start trusting the work you've put in. Start obeying the rules you wrote when you were thinking clearly, because in the heat of the moment, the market doesn't need your creativity, it needs your conviction, and your conviction must be anchored in a plan you're willing to follow, especially when it's hard. ChatGPT said there's something most people don't want to admit, especially when they're trying to chase success in trading. They love the thrill, the potential, the idea of making big profits, but they hate the part that requires honesty. They avoid it, they bury it, they ignore it. But let me tell you something plainly, if you're not tracking your performance, you're not trading, you're just gambling with more expensive tools. It doesn't matter how confident you feel after a winning week. It doesn't matter how many setups you think you're spotting. If you're not keeping track, if you're not reviewing what's working and what's not, then you're not learning, you're not improving, you're just guessing, hoping that instinct or luck will somehow carry you forward, but it won't. It never does. Real traders, those in that top 10%, they don't leave their progress to chance. They don't just trade and move on. They document, they journal, they review. After every session, they ask themselves hard questions. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Did I follow my plan? What was I feeling when I entered that trade? Did fear play a role in my decision? Did greed blind me? Because here's the truth. Every trade is a window into your mind. It reveals something about you. Not just about the market, but about how you respond under pressure, how you interpret data when you're excited, how you react when you're afraid. If you're not taking the time to reflect on those moments, you're not just missing data, you're missing yourself. And the greatest edge you will ever have in this game is self-awareness. Most traders think they need more strategies, more indicators, more market insights, but what they really need is more clarity about their own behavior. Because more often than not, it's not the strategy that's broken, it's the person executing it. And the only way you find that out is through tracking, through journaling, through consistent, honest review. I'm not talking about just writing down entries and exits in a spreadsheet. I'm talking about digging into the why behind every decision. Why did you enter that trade? Was it part of your system or was it emotional? Why did you exit early? Were you protecting yourself or were you afraid of losing again? Why did you skip a valid setup? Was it hesitation? Was it doubt? Was it laziness? These are the questions that refine you. This is the process that transforms you from a hopeful trader into a disciplined operator, because trading isn't just about what the market does, it's about what you do in response. And without documentation, without reflection, that response never changes. You'll just keep repeating the same patterns, the same mistakes, hoping for different results. You know what's sobering? Looking back at your own notes and realizing you've made the same mistake 5 times in the last month. It stings, it humbles you, but it also wakes you up. It gives you a direction. It shows you what needs to be addressed, not in theory, but in reality. I've talked to so many people who say they want to improve their trading, and I ask them, what have you learned from your last 10 trades? And they stare blankly. They can't answer, not because they didn't trade, but because they didn't learn, because they didn't. They moved on too quickly. They were so eager to get to the next trade that they never studied the last one, and so they repeat over and over again. But the profitable ones, oh, they move differently. They're not just interested in trading. They're interested in becoming excellent. They don't just chase profits, they chase growth, and that growth is fueled by deliberate, consistent reflection. They keep journals, they use screenshots, they write about how they felt, what they thought, what they expected, and how the trade unfolded. And they don't just do it when it's convenient, they do it because they know it's essential. They understand that every mistake they don't document is a mistake they will likely repeat, and every success they don't analyze is a breakthrough they'll forget. You see, the market is always speaking. But if you're not recording what it's telling you, you'll miss the conversation. You'll be stuck reacting to the present, never building from the past. Let me say this, you will never master what you do not measure. You cannot grow from what you refuse to. And if your ego is too big to admit when you're wrong, or your pride too fragile to record a losing trade, then you're not ready for this. You're still trading for identity, not for mastery. But when you humble yourself and say, I want to learn, even if it hurts. I want to know myself, even when it's ugly. I want to grow, even if it takes time. That's when you begin to see change. That's when trading becomes a path of transformation, not just profit. Because the habits you build when you journal, honesty, accountability, patience, they don't just improve your trading, they build character, and that character stays with you, whether the market is up or down. So many people think the secret to profitable trading is found in some course, or some mentor, or some indicator they haven't found yet. But most of the time, the secret is already sitting in your trade history. You just haven't taken the time to study it. You want to level up. Start tracking everything, every trade, every decision, every emotion. Make it part of your routine. Make it sacred. Don't just rely on your memory, because your memory is flawed. Your emotions will lie to you, but the numbers won't, the journal won't, the screenshots won't. And over time, you'll start to see patterns. You'll start to identify tendencies. You'll recognize when you're trading well and when you're not. You'll know when you're in flow and when you're being reckless. That's when you begin to take control. That's when trading stops being a mystery and starts becoming a craft, not overnight, not with 1 or 2 journal entries, but over months, over years, with diligence, with commitment, with humility, because the market doesn't reward speed. It rewards those who are willing to look inward and sharpen themselves every single day, not because it's glamorous, but because it's necessary. So if you're serious about this, if you really want to rise above the 90% who keep making the same mistakes, then start journaling, start reviewing. Don't leave your growth to chance. Don't treat your progress casually. Be intentional, be detailed, be honest, because the people who succeed in this space aren't just the ones who trade the best, they're the ones who learn the most from their trade. Too many people come into trading thinking about how much they can make. They dream of big wins, of fast profits, of life-changing returns. And while ambition isn't bad, when it's not balanced with a clear plan for risk, it becomes reckless. The market doesn't care about your dream. It doesn't reward greed. It punishes impatience and poor risk management swiftly and without mercy. You see, risk management isn't just a part of trading, it's the foundation, it's the shield that keeps you in the game long enough to learn, to grow, to profit. It's the armor that protects you from the inevitable losses that every trader will face, because no matter how good you are, you will lose trades. That's a fact. What separates the winners from the losers is not that they never lose, it's that they manage their losses so well that one loss doesn't wipe out months or years of gains. This means being brutally honest with yourself about how much you are willing to lose on a single trade. It means setting stop losses that you will never move or ignore. It means not risking more than a small percentage of your capital on any one trade, usually no more than 1 or 2. It means understanding that the goal isn't to win every trade, but to make sure the winners are bigger than the losers. And that requires discipline, restraint, and respect for the market's power. I've watched so many traders blow accounts because they failed to respect risk. They take trades that feel too good to pass up, they risk too much on a single position, or they move their stops further and further away, telling themselves stories to justify it. Maybe they say the market will come back, or I just need a little more time. But that's not trading, that's hoping, and hoping is a luxury you can't afford when your money is on the line. It's important to remember that every dollar you lose has to be made back by an even bigger gain. If you lose 50% of your account, you need to make a 100% just to get back to even. That's a harsh reality, and it's why managing risk isn't just about preventing losses, it's about ensuring your opportunity to grow. Those who trade successfully understand that the market is a marathon, not a sprint. They don't go for broke on one trade. They're not trying to hit a home run every time they step to the plate. Instead, they aim for steady singles and doubles, consistent profits that add up over time, and they protect themselves fiercely so that a bad day or even a bad week doesn't destroy what they've built. Risk management also means having the humility to step away when conditions aren't favorable. Sometimes the best trade is no trade at all. It takes wisdom to recognize when the market is too volatile, too uncertain, or simply not offering setups that meet your criteria. The profitable traders don't force trades just to be active. They wait patiently for high-quality opportunities and manage risk tightly when they do. Another key aspect of risk management is position size. It's not about how much money you put into a trade, but how that amount relates to the size of your account and your risk tolerance. A trade that looks good on paper can quickly turn into disaster if you commit too much of your capital to. So the best traders calculate precisely how many shares, contracts, or lots to take, never risking more than they can afford to lose. They make position sizing a part of their discipline, not a whim. And then there's the emotional side of risk. Managing risk is as much about mental strength as it is about numbers. It means accepting losses without panic. It means not chasing losses by doubling down. It means maintaining confidence in your system even after a draw. It means recognizing that losses are part of the journey, not a personal failure. When you embrace risk management fully, you develop a mindset that is both resilient and patient. You learn to trust the process rather than the outcome. You stop fearing the market and start respecting it. And in that respect, you find peace, even in volatility, because here's the deeper truth. You cannot control the market, but you can control how much it controls you. When you manage risk well, you take power away from fear and greed. You prevent those emotions from forcing bad decisions. You protect yourselves so that you can trade another day, another week, another year. In this way, risk management is not just a rule to follow, it's a form of stewardship. You are guarding what you've been given, treating your capital with care and respect so it can grow sustainably. This isn't about playing it safe all the time, it's about playing it smart every time. So if you want to join the ranks of the consistently profitable, don't fall into the trap of chasing profits without a plan to protect those profits. Don't let your ambition blind you to the risk. Instead, make risk management your highest priority. Know your limits, set your stops, size your positions carefully, accept losses as part of the game, and above all, commit to protecting your capital as if your future depends on it, because it does. That's how you build not just a trading account, but a career. That's how you trade with wisdom, patience, and courage. That's how you survive the storms and thrive when the skies clear.